Okay, let's come back together. I'm a bit pressed for time. So, let's do this as a group. Some of these figures are quite shocking, and some jump off the page. What have you guys noticed? What do you see? Okay, group one, what were you discussing? What jumps off the page? I'll bring a mic to you. Oh, here's a mic. Thank you.
In the figure of nose calling, the statement is the figure show that the woman of Southern Asia has increased dramatically from 10% to 50% for the have no school.
Okay, so you chose to use the word shows, the graph shows, and the women in Southeast Asia have a rate of 50% of no schooling.
Yeah, it's very high.
Very high.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, that's quite high. Let's go with another example. How about on this side? Let's say group 6. Where's group 6? I chose it randomly. Oh, it's over there. Okay, let's do group 6 and we'll come back here. Group 6, what did you find? Oh, sorry.
This one? Okay, from the graph, it is revealed that the number of, in Northern America, the number of men and women going to the university is almost equal.
Good. Yes, in North America, the amount of the percentage of men and women attending university is about equal, which isn't the case everywhere. So let's stay on that. Where do women attend university at higher percentage rates than men? Western Europe. Is that correct? No. Northern Europe. Very good. Well, and what was the reporting verb that you used? Revealed. Good. Was it revealed?
Yes.
Thank you. Revealed. Let's try one more example over here. About group number 8. Is there a group 8? Is there a group 7? How about this group? What do you guys have?
As little as 1% men in Northern America was reported to have no education.
Yeah, as little as 1% of North American men, did you say?
Yeah, as 1% men in Northern America was reported to have no education.
Was reported to have no education, no schooling. Very good. Now, we already talked about the degrees, but you guys did a good job of finding the differences. You chose to pick what you will highlight, and you chose the words that highlight those differences or highlight that data effectively. Now, we're coming to the end of our presentation, but you have a packet. Can I skip to the next slide? There you go. If you look at the last packet, handout 5, you have a, what do you call that? Abstract, thank you. You have an abstract and you have some data. And you can practice this at home, but this is when you would put all your skills together. You have experience now with the degrees of strength of the reporting verb that you choose, as well as finding which data to report on. So we're going to close now, and I want to thank you for being participants. And any final words?
Thank you for coming on your Saturday afternoon and spending a couple hours here. Good energy and good comments and questions. Oh, and we have a 3-minute question and answer, and I guess we'll be available afterwards as well because we ran over on time. So do you guys have any questions or comments for us?
Thank you. how to state it if the data is so varies? I mean, it has no trend, whether it's increase or decrease. How should we say that?
If I understand you, if you can't see a trend, I would think about how the data was accumulated, the design of the research, which is another question. But even if you look at the data that we did before in the last exercise about feeling nervous, if you noticed, a lot of those questions were the same. They kind of paraphrased each other, but they all talked about how we're all nervous, right? But one of the interesting one, I think it was question 2, it said something like, I feel nervous when I make a mistake. And I think it was like 30% agreed with that statement and 50% didn't. I was quite shocked when I saw 50% of people don't worry about making mistakes, yet the vast majority of people feel nervous when they speak English, which makes me think, then why are they nervous? That's what I would think. So even when we look at data where we think there's no trend, we can ask ourselves, then maybe I'm not asking the right questions. So that's how I would answer that. Any other questions? Thank you for the question, by the way.
I would like to ask, when we see the graph, what should we do at first? What should we do at first? From which part that we should make the paragraph? And the second is, can we put our writer review? For example, I found that 50% of men, blah blah blah, which I or the writer found. Gitu. Can we?
So sort of like what to do first in choosing what to report. So that gets at the purpose of your research, if it's your own original research. Thinking at things like trends, even if you're looking at like the history and looking at trends over time, it could be something like that. Or we talked today about the highs and the lows for reported, like the 0 number or 50% or 80% of participants saying like the self-reporting. So it really depends on what you're trying to focus on is what you look at to report in your data. So remembering not to be exhaustive with it in your paragraphs, but what do you find most important that you want your readers to learn from in your research? So not covering everything in your data. It can be very boring, as we talked about with one group. So just remembering what is your original focus and purpose for that, and that's what you choose to report. Part 2 of your question, what was it? Oh, using the first person I. What is your thought on that? Yeah.
I've always been told by my professors, don't. But it really depends on how you're writing. It really does depend on if you're giving a short story, an example, but it really depends. But generally, I don't. But that's personally, yeah.
I guess it would depend, yeah, too, on like if you're publishing in a journal or something like that and your research is widely being distributed, yeah, certain journals won't allow for that first person I. So, yeah, it depends on the context. Last question before we wrap up. We can get you guys late. No, afterwards, maybe? Yeah.
How to connecting data from the global level to national or local level, the highest, lowest, how to connecting, I mean the transitions, yeah, how to connecting the data. And the second is we already hear about the anomaly data. It means anomaly is things that related to highest or lowest in the trend, or that's it, the question.
Yeah. If I understand you correctly, how do you report on some of your data to a bigger point? Like you said local and global, but I assume like a point in a trend, perhaps you, well, once again, that's a different skill. But for example, if you look at the example that I gave you with, I think it was Model 2, I'm not really sure. But you see the history of men and women in education throughout the years. And you might see a trend that, for example, more men have increased participation in part-time education, but the participation as a full-time student has dropped, while women, on all counts, has increased on both counts. Now, that's what I'm seeing on my data. And maybe I want to make it a larger point. The last data that you were looking at was global, right? You're looking at North America. North America, for both men and women, tend to be a lot higher than other countries. Actually, and I'm curious about that because, well, the first part was actually made up. The last part was actual statistics from the United Nations. But if that was not the case, if there was a disconnect, if there was some, some data, local data says, okay, more women are attending higher education than men, but then I look at the global statistics and it says for North America, it's about the same. What's the disconnect? I'm making a point that generally there's more men and women in North America going to school, but when I look at my data at the local level, I'm seeing in the United States, it's more women. But I'm not considering what? North America is not just the United States. What am I missing? Data from Canada and Mexico. So how do you make that connection? That's a very difficult skill, but basically you try to wonder, what are the numbers telling me? So if I look at those numbers from the first example, that's just from the United States. When I look at the numbers from the last example, that's North America. If you didn't read carefully, you might skip that and think North America is the United States, and then the data doesn't make sense. So it's just really careful analysis of your data, just going over it and asking yourself, what are these numbers telling me? I think actually we're 4 minutes over, so we're going to end now. We will stick around if you have any questions. We are going to be here for a while. And I want to thank all of you who have came, and I hope you come to the next installation of this series. Thank you.
Please give another round of applause for our facilitator of today. Thank you. But before we finish today's session, I would like to invite back all of the speakers for today and take picture with AdAmerica's logo. Okay, and for ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for participating in today's event. Hopefully we can see each other again in AdAmerica's next event. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you so much.